Hi there, this is Courtney, and welcome to the Caring Framework. Hi there, and welcome back to our Caring tutorial series. Today we are looking at affirmation focused feedback. So I'm going to show you two full sets of demos, one from a teacher perspective on a student essay, and the other from a more general workplace perspective on like a C-suite report. Um, and for each demo, I'm going to do the two different approaches from our week 3 instructions. Option A, which is where the AI drafts the feedback for you, and then option B is where the AI coaches you to write that feedback yourself. If you want more information on those instructions and the theory behind them, pop on over to our podcast because I go through it all there. Otherwise, we're going to dive right into those demos. Our first scenario here is the grade 10 student climate change essay. The research is solid. They're citing NASA data, um, but it's all summary with no analysis. They are not answering the so what question. This is their third essay this semester. Earlier, they were writing with pure opinion with no evidence, so this is real progress. But they are also like middle confidence. They compare themselves to stronger writers and they get discouraged easily. So, with the generic approach, we're not using the framework, we're just talking straight to Gemini this week. And here's what we get when we ask for feedback: we get generic praise up top, then immediately we're hit with four separate problems. The intro is too short, needs greenhouse effect explanation, it's one block of text, and it lacks a conclusion. And then at the bottom, it offers to rewrite the intro and conclusion for them. So, if a student were to be reading this, um, they would see those four things that they did wrong, and then that the AI needs to redo the work for them. This feedback focuses entirely on the structure and formatting, and it never addresses that we want them to learn to analyze and not just summarize. So we're going to take that same essay, but we're going to put in the caring framework instructions first. And we're going to explicitly say that we want to do option A. And then I put in those same instructions like give us feedback on this essay. So the AI stops and it doesn't give the feedback yet. It gives us 7 questions about this student. So I go ahead and I put in some of those answers, like, their research has improved. We're working on analysis as a class. Middle confidence, they need genuine recognition and not generic praise. Now the AI explains its approach. So I will recognize their research growth first and then frame analysis as the next skill that they're ready for. And then the actual feedback gives over 200 words of specific affirmation. It's quoting their actual data, the NASA citations, the 279 billion tons of ice, and explaining why each of those strengths matters. And then there's the one focus area, learning the so what question. And instead of doing it for them, it teaches the principle with a before and after example using their own work. Now, if we look at the difference here, without caring, there are 80 words of affirmation with 4 problems and a focus on structure. With caring, there's 200 plus words of affirmation, one skill to focus on, and focusing on that thinking process rather than the format. So, same essay and the same prompt, but totally different outcomes. With our second scenario, we are giving feedback to a marketing analyst. It is their first executive summary for the C suite. The data is solid, the insights are there, but it's written like a detailed report instead of an executive brief. Um, the employee's nervous, and then, about going to the executives with this. So, with the generic AI no caring instructions, um, we get 15 words of affirmation. That's it. And then 6 separate problems and critiques, and then a full rewrite up of the or full rewrite of the entire slide report. Um, so like the employees probably going to be like walking away from that, not really able to tell like if it's the thinking, like they're thinking that's a problem, or if it's the formatting. Um, they haven't really learned any transferable skill for the next time. Um, But then again, like with the carrying prompt, we put in option A again. Um, the context that we're putting in here for the AI is that it's their first summary. Strong analyst, nervous about C suite, need to separate thinking quality from format. So we get 200 plus words of affirmation here on their analytical strength, and then one clear principle to work on, which is the conclusion first structure for executives. So it provides a template and not a full rewrite. So that way, going forward, they can apply that principle to every executive summary going forward. Now, here's where things get really interesting with option B. The AI is going to coach you as a supervisor or teacher to write your own feedback. Um, so the supervisor sits down and writes this, feedback like good effort, but we need to make some changes. Here are the issues to address, and then there's a list of like five separate problems. Um, we didn't really focus on the words of affirmation here. The supervisor is not trying to be harsh. They are just focused and busy and they're trying to fix the problem. But when we put it into the AI reviews it against the caring principles and shows specifically what's missing. So there's no affirmation before jumping to issues. So it frames it as a problem instead of a skill transition. And then five separate issues instead of one principle. Then the AI shows what improvement looks like. So, same supervisor, same feedback goal, but now it starts with, the 200 plus words of recognizing their analytical maturity, the benchmarking, the 45-second insight, and then frames it as a learning executive communication format. Um, it gives them the headline, insight, action structure that they can use going forward. So the first draft here that we provided had 7 words of affirmation, 5 problems, and then the employee, thinks that their work is not great. And with the revised feedback here, we've got, those 200 words of affirmation. We're focused on one principle. Um, and the employee walks away knowing that, their original work was good. It was just not in the right format. So this is what option B does. Um, the supervisor drafts, um, and then the AI can catch what's missing. And so it also like gives the table that shows, hey, this is what's missing and this is how we can fix it. So that way we too are learning through that process. So, without caring, there is a focus on like a to do list. It lists problems and then it tries to fix the issue for you, which can create a dependency. With option A, the AI, asks the questions and then drafts the feedback, which is great for when you are just learning this process or are busy and overwhelmed. With option B, it takes a little bit more time, but the AI is coaching you on how to draft your own feedback using these principles. This is also really good if you are working on confidential information. So if you can't copy and paste whatever it is you're giving feedback on into the AI, it's also really good if you just want to use your own voice for the feedback or if you're just practicing this skill. So go ahead and try this yourself. I have the links for the instructions below. It is on my LinkedIn, but I've also put together a blog because I was finding that the running list on LinkedIn was starting to look really overwhelming. There's also links on the blog to all the podcasts. Um, if you want to hear more about the theory behind this process, you can check that out here. But yeah. So, just a reminder that this isn't about making the AI nicer. In this case, it's about giving feedback that works. There is science behind it. Um, but yeah, thanks again for joining us this week. Next week, we are looking at our third letter of caring, which is relationship, which focuses on trust building and, situations where psychological safety are primary concerns. So we will see you then.